Good morning, children. In last class, if you remember, we read about agriculture. We had started this topic and we discussed about some aspects of agriculture. What is agriculture? What was ancient agriculture and how it has evolved to modern agriculture. Some aspects we discussed about. Do you remember? What were the things, two things that agriculture is counted in? One is raising of crops and the other one was livestock, or if we say then animal husbandry. Fine. So today we are going to continue from our last lecture. Today we will discuss about crops. Okay. What are crops? Crops, they are one type of plant which we are growing in large quantities in a field, and we are going to take care of them. We are going to reap them or harvest them when they will become mature. Means they are going to earn, or they are going to help us economically in earning money also. Whatever is requirement for us, we will keep for us, rest we are going to sell it. So what are crops? Crops are the plants grown in large quantities in a field. Okay, let us again see. Plants grown in large quantities in a field are known as crops. Fine. Now, crops, can you give some examples of the crops? First example that will come in your mind is wheat. Then another one is rice, because they are part of our diet. Okay, they are part of our staple food, we can say. Okay, so that's why this will come in your mind. But let us see the categories of the common crops that we have in our practice. One is cereals. 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 What are cereals? Cereals are the crops which are rich in carbohydrate. They are energy giving crop or food. Example: wheat, rice, barley, maize. Okay, all these come in cereals. So first crop that we discussed is cereals. Okay, example: wheat, rice, etc. Then another one, pulses. Another category of crops is pulses. Pulses. What are pulses rich in? You have learnt in your previous classes. Since primary you are learning. Pulses are rich in proteins. Means they are body building food. Okay. So examples: gram, peas. Okay. Some more are there. Kidney beans. Okay. These all pulses, they are rich in proteins. And example, some more: lentils. Okay. These are all pulses. Then comes oil seeds. What do you mean by oil seeds? Oil seeds are those crops which yield oil to us. Okay, oil yielding plants are called oil seed crops. Now, what are the examples of oil seeds? Mustard, groundnut, and almond also. Is it or not? Yes. Mustard, groundnut, almond, sunflower. These are all sesame, til. We call in Hindi til, sesame. So these are oil seeds. Examples are mustard, groundnut, sesame, sunflower, etc. Then there is a category of crops which yield sugar. Which yield sugar. So sugar yielding crops, we call them sugar crops. What do we call them? Sugar crops. Now, sugar crops are sugarcane. Sugarcane, the juice of the sugarcane is extracted and that is used to make jaggery, gur in Hindi, and jaggery in English, Jaggery. And what else? Sugar. Okay, sugar mill. They process the juice of the sugar and crystallize it in the form of sugar. Then sugar beet. This is also one of the crops which gives or which yield sugar. Then comes plantation crops. We also call them cash crops, plantation crops. And examples are coffee, tea, rubber, etc. So these are cash crops. They are very costly, so that's why we call them cash crops also. Then last category we are going to discuss here is fiber crops. Fiber, as the name is giving you hint, fiber crops help in giving us fiber, and which will be made into fabrics. So one of the chapter that you are going to read further. So fiber crops, they are jute, cotton, flax, hemp, etc. These are the examples of fiber crops. So how many categories we have done here? 6 categories: cereals, pulses, oil seeds, sugar crops, plantation crops, and fiber crops. These are the different crops which are commonly found around us and which we see that farmers, they grow in their fields. Fine. Now, on the basis of season, there is a category of crops which are grown in different seasons. See, it is not that every crop, each and every crop can be grown any time. Okay, they are seasonal, means according to the season, the climatic conditions, the weather conditions, they also support the growth of the crop. So on that basis, based on season, the crops are divided into again 2 categories. What are they? Summer crops or winter crops. 2 categories are summer crops or winter crops. Now, we do not call them generally summer crops or winter crops, but we call them, summer crops are called kharif crops. Kharif, Kharif, kharif crops. And what about winter crops? They are called rabi crops. What do we call them? Rabi crops, R-A-B-I. Very, very important. This question is often asked in the exam for 3 marks. What are the differences or differentiate between kharif and rabi crops? Differentiate between kharif crops and rabi crops with example. So let us see. What are the months in which kharif crops are grown? Kharif crops are grown from the month of June, means growth months in which we grow them are June to July, and harvesting or reaping means when they get mature and we cut them, that is September to October. Okay, it's not that only in September, it depends upon the maturity of the crops. When do they mature? So on basis of their growth, the time tenure they take to mature, that is June to October. It's tentative. Then in rabi crops, what is the duration, or in which months the climate is favorable for them? So rabi crops, they start growing from September or October. September to October they are grown in, and when they are harvested or reaped, they are reaped or harvested in the months from the month of March until April. It goes March till April. So I have written here only 2 months, October to April, but you are going to speak about like September to October is the growth time, and harvesting time is March to April. So on the basis of months, June to October is kharif crops, October to April is the rabi crops. Then next is kharif crops require more water. Their irrigation requirement is more, so they require a lot of water. So as you can feel here, in June to August or some part of September also, maximum rain is there. Fine. So that is also one of the reason these crops are grown in these months. Okay, kharif crops are grown in these months because their water requirement is more. They require a lot of water. So this has a characteristic feature that Kharif crops require lot of water, but Rabi crops, they require less water. Okay, their requirement for water is very less. Then example of Kharif crops: paddy or rice, cotton, soybean, etc. Groundnut, soybean, these are all the summer crops. Then what about winter crops? Winter crops are wheat, gram, barley, pea, mustard, etc. So these are the examples of the Rabi crops. So you can be asked in exam only about giving the examples of Kharif crops or Rabi crops, or you can be asked about the differences between both type of crops. Then comes that these crops are not only based on season, but they are based on life cycle also. You know what is life cycle? That when do they start and when they die, or when their tenure is completed. So on that basis of life cycle, these crops are again divided into three categories. What are the three categories? Annuals, biennials and perennials. Okay, annuals, biennials, perennials. Let us see the spelling. ANNUALS, annuals. These crops, they require only one growing season to complete their life cycle. Let me again repeat. Annual crops, they require only one season to complete their life cycle. Example: wheat, rice, corn, etc. Or you can say maize, etc. Fine. Then biennials, BIENNIALS, biennials. Biennials, they require two growing seasons. They require how many seasons? Two growing seasons. Okay. In first season, what do? They store food in the roots. They store food in the roots. And in next season, they are going to produce seeds and fruit. In second season, they are going to produce what? Fruits and seeds. That's why they are called biennials. Bi means two. Okay. Biennials. They require two growing seasons. Now example are carrots. Fine. Then comes perennials. Perennials are the crops which live for more than 2 years. They are not restricted to one season or two seasons. They are grown, and after becoming mature, what do? They just keep producing seeds. They will produce seeds, okay, and fruits. Example: apple, banana, mango, etc. These are perennials. Means they have been grown and they will last for many years. That's why we call them perennials. So on the basis of life cycle, what are the categories of the crops? They are annuals, biennials and perennials. Again, annuals, biennials, perennials. If there is any confusion, how you can learn? A comes alphabetically first, 1. Biennial, 2. Perennial, 3. So alphabetically A, then B and then P. So in this way also you can learn and memorize them. So what we learned today? We learned about the crops. What are crops? What are the common crops that are present around us? Then on season, based on the season, how many categories of crops are there? They are summer crops or Kharif crops, or winter crops or Rabi crops. Then how many types of crops are there on basis of life cycle? They are 3: annual, biennial and perennials. Annual, biennial and perennials. So what is the homework for today? Define crops. Define crops. Give example. Second question. Give some common crops with example. Give some common crops with example that are found around us. Third question. What are the categories of the crops based on season? Based on season. What are the categories of crops based on the season? Then last question. How many types of crops are based on life cycle? So do these questions.